in today's video we're going to make a reverse hyperextension. So, reverse hyper, invented by a guy named Louis Simmons, and he invented this thing to decompress the spine and working on the lower back at the same time. This reverse hyper has a couple of very neat features. One of them being that there's some storage for some tools that you'll need to adjust the pendulum and the weights on here. In order to get up there more easily, you can use the steps and then just go right into place. It also has a handle that's very sturdy, so you can hold yourself onto. Also, it's built very sturdy, and that's why I'm going to show how it works. So you have this strap here. You place one foot in there, like that. Go up. This one here is based off the Rogue RH2. I'll put a picture up there, and this one cost me around 200 euros. So all the wood, the padding, the pendulum, it all cost me around 200 euros. And that's 1/5 of the cost you would pay at Rogue, where it's like 1,000 euros. And also it was a very fun experience just building this thing. Without further ado, let me show you how I built this one.
For the frame I used mortise and tenon joints to be sure that everything stayed well together. After all, this piece needs to withstand some swinging motion. This connection was made at a slight angle to connect the larger 150 cm base to the smaller 60 cm top. To make the connections I used a regular wood saw to cut the tenons. For this project I tried to use only hand tools except for the drill. This worked out quite good and was a great workout at the same time. The great thing about using hand tools is that it's not too fast, so whatever guidelines you made, you're probably going to hit them right on the spot, as opposed to a jigsaw where you can easily go much further than you anticipated. To get the mortise to line up with the tenons, I laid them on top of each other and traced the tenons around on the piece of wood where the mortise would go. For the mortises, I used a saw to cut two sides. In order to remove the middle piece, I used a drill bit that was just wide enough to fit in between the two cuts and drill the hole. Then I used a chisel to remove the wood in the corners. If you're making the connections, make sure that you test fit every piece. The great advantage of wood is that you can always rework the piece if you need to. For the hole in between, I drilled 2 holes at the 2 sides where I wanted the mortise. Then I used a chisel to take out the wood in between. This seems to work quite alright. And then it was back to the fitting game, as this connection was the most difficult to make. Also the one where I had the most work, mainly due to my inexperience. To connect the 4 pieces of the sides, I pre-drilled 2 holes to each connection. Then I used wood glue on all the faces of the tenons to make the connection stronger. I put the pieces back together and screwed 2 8 cm long screws diagonally into the pre-drilled holes. I did this for all 4 connections, and then it was time to put the bottom and top in place. To connect the bottom, I put one of the side pieces on the floor raised by a piece of scrap wood. I used wood glue on one side that would be in between the floor piece and the side construction. I used clamps to clamp everything down so the sides would line up perfectly. Then I put a screw in the middle on one side of the plywood. After that, I placed the screw every 20 centimeters from the first one in a zigzag pattern. This way I'm sure that sideward movement would be limited. To attach the other side of the construction, I used some boxes to lift one side up and clamp down the other side. It was quite a hassle, so if you plan on making the reverse hyper I'm making, make sure that you place the whole construction upside down. That way you can screw the bottom on from up top. That would be a lot easier. After that, I turned the whole construction upright and it did withstand the L-sit test of stability. The top piece is the same material as the bottom piece, but just smaller and is attached in the same way. When everything was attached, I saw a lot of wobble in the piece, so I decided to reinforce the whole construction with L brackets, 5 centimeters wide and 15 centimeters long. I made sure that I used L brackets for all 8 corners, so it was super sturdy. This worked out amazing. For the pendulum, I wanted to drill a hole through the upper beam and place a 42mm pipe in between. I also wanted to reinforce the pipe in the middle by placing some supports underneath. Unfortunately, the supports for the middle were too high. That made me put the supports in from up top. This gave me plenty of room to put the pipe in the wood and made it very strong. For that I had to make a small square so the support would fit in through. I countersunk the flat piece a little so it would line up with the hole from the wood. The pendulum was attached using a T-connection. The downward pipe was a little too long, so I had to cut it down with a grinding wheel to 60 centimeters. I've never had done this before, but it worked out alright. Now I can use the other piece of 40 centimeters to hold some plates in the future. For now, the weights are attached using an old changeable dumbbell fitted through another T-connection. The whole construction turned out to be a little higher than I anticipated, mainly because I didn't think this part through. This is easily fixed by making some steps on the sides with some scrap wood.
So for the padding, unfortunately I didn't film how I put on this one, but actually there's just a wooden plank underneath this padding. It came this way, so it was very easy to screw this one in place. Just make sure that you center it, and then you just put in some screws, and you're good to go. Now the great thing about this padding is that it's real leather, and I got this one for around 20 euros, which normally would have cost me like 400 euros, according to what the seller told me. So thank you for watching this video. I really had a blast making this one, and I urge you, if you want some piece of equipment in your home gym, try to make it yourself. You'll probably have more fun out of it, and also it's going to be a lot cheaper if you know what to do. I didn't have any experience. I just asked a bunch of people in my family what I should do, and they gave me some tips. And you probably know somebody who knows woodworking. So if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button. Also subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll be seeing you all in the next video.